Donnie Glover Show, be more news. BMoreNews.
We'd like to welcome you to the Donnie Glover Show. We promise you this will be a very informative session. We're right here at the Thurgood Marshall Amenities Center, 1315 Division Street. We want you to sit tight. We'll be right back.
At Fulton Bank, we're personally invested in every community we serve. So sometimes we're big in small ways, like finding a way to get Crystal and Dan a mortgage before the baby arrived. Other times we're small in big ways, like local decision-making and financial coaching that helped Fernando open his own shop. Fulton Bank, a community bank that's big and small in all the right ways.
I was very fortunate and blessed to be able to purchase a house, and then in the meantime, walk into quite a bit of equity. Thank you so much, Calvin. You've been a blessing. I really, really have appreciated everything that you have done to, help me along on this journey, because I just believe that God orders our steps, and I'm just grateful that He brought you into our lives. That's it.
All right, I'd like to welcome you back to the Donnie Glover Show. Our very first guest today is Dr. Al Hathaway. How are you, Doc?
Man, good to see you, Brother Donnie. So good to have you here.
Love this place.
Oh, man, can you imagine, man? We were blessed to be able to restore this building that was built in 1877 by George Frederick, who was an amazing designer and builder in Baltimore City. Baltimore City Hall he designed and built when he was 21 years old. Our courthouse he designed and built. Pimlico Clubhouse he designed and built. The Howard P. Rawlins Conservatory, Drill Park, he designed and built. But he designed and built this building in 1877. And then in 1914, here comes Justice Thurgood Marshall with his classmate, Cab Calloway.
So I'm thinking back to 1865. Baltimore had the largest population of free blacks prior to the Civil War.
Yes.
So Baltimore was a bastion, a getaway.
Oh, man.
Last southern city before we get to the Mason.
It was very important. My Baptist minister's background, I was pastor of Union Baptist Church, which was begun in 1852. So that whole trajectory of the migration of African Americans coming to Baltimore City was reflected in the growth of Union Baptist Church. At its height, 8% of the population were members of Union Baptist Church.
Now, is this where we mentioned Harvey Johnson?
Man, amazing. We can never forget Harvey Johnson, Reverend Dr.
I feel his spirit. I don't want him to come around the corner with a stick.
Man, amazing brother who was the prototype of what we now know as teen ministry with his wife, Amelia, that were amazing personalities in Baltimore City. He was the one who understood early on, one, that we need to have African-American lawyers represent us. And so he went and had the first African-American attorney brought to Baltimore City, and he got him admitted to the bar.
Now, you're taking me, this makes me think of George McMecken.
Oh, man. Just think about these educators.
And Ashby Hawkins, because McMecken Street, right up the street, right?
Yes, McMecken Street, but Edward Warren was the first African-American to get admitted to the bar, and that's who Harvey Johnson had brought here to get admitted, which broke that barrier, which then opened up the gateway for all those amazing personalities to become legal minds.
Right in this area.
Right in this area. This is the largest historic African-American district in America. This community and the people of this community actually shaped the trajectory of America.
And this is Upton?
Upton. Can you imagine Uptown?
You better say Wanda Best's name. I don't feel...
Oh, well, no, Wanda Best has been a rightful heir to the legacy of Lena Boone. And if you might remember, this building here, PS 103, was where Lena Boone had a community center. So I remember her presence very well. And Wanda Best is a real worthy successor to that birthright that was found in Lena Boone.
So what do they, beyond Upton, is this historic black Baltimore? Is it old black? Because we actually started on the east side.
Yes, we
And
started.
please don't get PM Smith started.
That's my brother. But I would say to you that West Baltimore actually shaped. You got to keep in mind, African Americans lived down where we had Mercy Hospital. That was called the Gallows. That's where African Americans lived right down there. After the fire of 1904, they then got steered basically to West Baltimore, and we began to move to West Baltimore. We could live all places west of McCullough. We couldn't live on McCullough at that time. So Drew Hill Avenue and all points west is where African Americans moved to.
McCullough to Fulton, if I'm not mistaken.
At that time, we couldn't live on McCullough. We could live on Drew Hill Avenue,
Right.
going over to Fulton. And we couldn't go above North Avenue.
Now, see, that's the story my daddy told me.
Yeah.
We couldn't go to Easterwood Park, where Coppin is, Mondawmin.
No. That
Off
was
limits.
Off limits. That's.
What would happen?
Well, you got to think about it. Surrounding us was Jewish community, German Americans, white Anglo-Saxons, Protestants. So they moved out of this community when we began to move in here in 1905. They then began to move out. And then, of course, Thurgood Marshall comes. He's born in 1908, and he comes here to school in 1914.
I remember Senator Cardin, 2015, just after 2015, Freddie Gray.
Right.
And then somewhere around that, you got the first monies for this building?
Yeah, you got to keep in mind, we were one of the first buildings in Baltimore City to get a congressional earmark when they began to allow for congressional earmarks called congressional directed funding to come by Congress. There had been a hold on that. Republicans would not allow that to happen. Now Democrats are in control. They now bring back congressional directed earmarks, and we were able to get a $1 million congressional earmark for this property. But this property cost $15 million. One of the things about this property and what I sought to do was I wanted to have a proof of concept. Could I bring money from outside the city to be invested into our community? So when you look at it, my investors come from St. Louis, they come from New Orleans, they come from Philadelphia, as well as we have some that come from Baltimore. But we were able to raise $15 million to restore this building.
$15 million, that could almost get you in the governor's chair.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something, but $15 million, what it did was that I wanted to have a historic, accurate depiction of this school when Thurgood Marshall and Cab Calloway and the related people walked through the doors. So when you walk through these doors, this is what they saw. They saw a building that was designed to, one, have natural light, two, to also have access to fresh air. And so you see it with all these amazing glass as natural light, and these wall sashes all elevate, all lift, so that air flows through this building.
So Thurgood Marshall walked these floors?
Yes.
In this space?
In this space. His classrooms he went through grades 1 through 4 on the first level, grades 5 through 8 he went on the second level. But there was a story about Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall, and he even admits it, was a kind of a rambunctious student. So as a result, he would get into trouble. Can you imagine? You got Cab Calloway, who was a jokester even as a child, as his partner. They getting in trouble. So the principal would send him downstairs to timeout. We call it timeout. But what he would do is that he would give him a copy of the Constitution to read and say to him, you got to recite back to me a passage when you come out of timeout. Thurgood Marshall said that by the time he graduated from PS 103, he knew the Constitution by heart. Can you imagine that shaping of that mind and spirit? What we would call punitive turned out to be very liberating for our community because he learned law that early in life.
I wonder what Larry Gibson, the good professor who wrote the book about Thurgood Marshall, I wonder what he would have to say about this building.
Man, let me tell you, Larry Gibson was the chair of the PS 103 commission. I was on that commission. I can't imagine, say, Larry Gibson, you should have been the one doing the building. Next thing I know, he had handed it off to me to follow up and to do this amazing work. But when you think about Professor Gibson, he understood early on the significance, not only of law as a professor, but also the significance of Thurgood Marshall. So the work that he did to have the airport named after him was monumental. Our work continues because now we're going to cause his elementary school to become a National Historic Site.
You know, when we come back, I have to ask you about that. I'm all for symbolic names. It's Thurgood Marshall, BWI Thurgood Marshall. Of course, Ricky
Sure.
was running it. Now Ricky's now running Hartsfield Jackson.
This is great.
Busiest airport in the world. But I got to ask you about the money. Name the airport what you want. That was a $2 billion expansion. We're going to talk about that a little bit more when we come back on the other side. The one and only Dr. Al Hathaway, right here at the Thurgood Marshall Amenities Center, 1315 Division Street. Special thank you also to Dr. Tyrone Taborn and STEMCityUSA.com. We'll be right back.
Bank, we're personally invested in every community we serve. So sometimes we're big in small ways, like finding a way to get Crystal and Dan a mortgage before the baby arrived. Other times we're small in big ways, like local decision-making and financial coaching that helped Fernando open his own shop. Fulton Bank, a community bank that's big and small in all the right ways.
I was very fortunate and blessed to be able to purchase a house, and then in the meantime, walk into quite a bit of equity. Thank you so much, Calvin. You've been a blessing. I really, really have appreciated everything that you have done to, help me along on this journey, because I just believe that God orders our steps, and I'm just grateful that He brought you into our lives. That's it.
I'd like to welcome you back to the Donnie Glover Show. Okay, Dr. Al, tell me about the money. BWI Thurgood Marshall, $2 billion expansion. Did we get a piece of that money? And I got a couple that with this effort you did just across the street with State Center, maybe 13 years or so ago.
Yeah.
You took like a million-man march down to State Center, had all of the people in Annapolis shaking at the boots.
It was interesting. The issue remains the same, and that is economic justice.
Yes.
That has not changed. This is what Thurgood Marshall said, because he was asked the question, what is equality? He said, equality is that I get the same thing at the same time in the same place.
At the same price.
Well, you want more than.
Yeah.
You want more than. So one of the things that I did, and I do recognize what happened at BWI and many of the projects that are in our community, but I was very intentional on this project. $15 million, I wanted to make certain that all across the top line of the organization were persons of color. All African American, either males or females, had to be at the top line of my organization. So when I think of general contractors, we had Mahogany, young brother from Cherry Hill, who, because of this project, he had been a subcontractor for 30 years, but this was his first project as a general contractor, and he knocked it out of the box. And we proved that he could become a general contractor, and now his business is expanding. I had Sheena Parker, who you know.
Integrity Title.
Integrity Title, all of the work. We had multiple research of lots that we had to go through, going back to the 1700s, and her firm proved that they were capable and available. When I think about insurance, I have...
you got to mention Mahogany's name. That's Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff Hargrave with Mahogany. Mm-hmm. But when I think all across the top line, architects, title company, insurance. Let me tell you a secret thing about insurance. And this is a problem that we have in Baltimore City. At the time that I bought the project from the city, I had to now insure that project. This building had been burnt out, vacant for 20 years. No one would insure it. But I remembered our history. And in our history, if you remember the Montgomery bus boycott, T.M. Alexander went to Lords of London to get the vehicles insured that would not allow them to break the bus boycott. I understood that and had our agent go to Lords of London to insure this building at the time from when we got it from the city to the time we went to construction. So I wanted to remember that history, because we can't forget our history of our liberation movement. And much of what we did was because we understood that we had to manage money. So this is what I want to tell you, Danny, and this is the blessing of this project. I was able to see money rotate through this community. I was able to see young people who came and asked, could I get hired? We hired them to be laborers on the job. I had a young man on this job, was 22 years old. He was a pipe fitter. All of the pipes that you see in here, he threaded all of the pipes. You know what he made? He made $37 an hour threading pipes. I have another group, Division Street Landscaping, Division Outdoor Contracting. They did all of the outdoor maintenance, all of that construction, and he hired returning citizens, and we put them to work, and his business is now expanding. I think we have to learn the lesson of how do we control the checkbook, because when you control the checkbook, you then can determine who gets paid.
That's Black Wall Street.
Yes, it is.
And Baltimore has a long history of black business.
Very much so.
You mentioned 1904 and the Great Baltimore Fire. It makes me think of my dad's organization, the Funeral Directors, Morticians Association of Maryland. They go back, I think, around that same time, 1904. So 2025, where do we go from here?
I think one of the things that we've done here is that if we're going to empower the community, and the Justice Thurgood Marshall Amenities Center has these three purposes: to inspire, to educate, inform, but also to empower. And you do that by bringing institutional capacity to a community. So hence we have Tyrone Taborn with STEM City. Can you imagine students coming here, young people coming here, getting access to the metaverse, beginning to learn artificial intelligence, beginning to learn large machine learning? That world is here today. It's not the world of the future. It's the world today. And we got to make certain that our people have a platform to access that. University of Maryland College Park. Here you have College Park, the flagship university in Maryland, is housed here. The Judge Alexander Williams Center for Education, Justice, and Ethics, their public health department, their department on violence prevention, all housed here. And then BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport is here. We have them housed here as well. We have flight simulators. We're going to teach airport management. We're going to teach aviation, and we're also going to teach hospitality, because those are the jobs of the future. This is going to be a place where people, one, not only are inspired, not only are informed, but they're also going to be empowered. And that's the purpose of the Justice Thurgood Marshall Amenities Center.
We've got a black governor, a black attorney general, largest black caucus in the country. We've got a black mayor, a black city comptroller. We have blacks in positions like never before, Speaker of the House. Where do we go from here?
We have to always realize that as one president once said, that the business of America is business. And we must always remember that it is through the use of business and entrepreneurship is going to be our pathway to freedom. Political access is an instrument and a tool, but the real is, one, develop your mind, and then understand how to manage your money, because that is the tools to freedom for our people.
What's next for you?
Man, you know what? I believe that not only do we tell the story of Justice Thurgood Marshall, and we're going to cause this to become a nationally storied site. It's tragic that when we think about the federal government, it looks at Fort McHenry, it looks at the Hampton Plantation through which it tells its story. It has to tell a story through Justice Thurgood Marshall and the related people, Clarence Mitchell Jr., Juanita Jackson. And we just go down the line. We got to tell that story and make that national story. But for me, my hope is that we create an institution that survives my time and place, so that when I'm on a distant star with Elijah Cummings, I can say, look here, man, we did it. We created a vehicle for our people.
Look into that camera and tell people how to get in touch with you, how to make it here, the 13th, 15th Division.
www.belovedcorp.com. You go to that website, you access us, but also be willing to contribute and give. www.belovedcorp.com.
Wow, I'm just blown away. We're going to take a pause, and we'll be right back on the other side. Special thank you again to Dr. Al Hathaway. Thank you for letting us come down here and shoot. Man. We'll be right back.
At Fulton Bank, we're personally invested in every community we serve. So sometimes we're big in small ways, like finding a way to get Crystal and Dan a mortgage before the baby arrived. Other times we're small in big ways, like local decision-making and financial coaching that helped Fernando open his own shop. Fulton Bank, a community bank that's big and small in all the right ways.
I was very fortunate and blessed to be able to purchase a house, and then in the meantime, walk into quite a bit of equity. Thank you so much, Calvin. You've been a blessing. I really, really have appreciated everything that you have done to, help me along on this journey, because I just believe that God orders our steps, and I'm just grateful that He brought you into our lives. That's it.
Hi, it's Saidah Spinner, and we're here with the Doni Glover Show. This is the Boss Ladies of Baltimore segment, and I'm here with Boss Lady herself, Marsha Jews. Hi, Marsha. How are you today?
Oh, hi. Fine, and you? I'm so
doing
excited.
good. Me too. I'm so excited to hear all about your story. I know that you have so many things going, many titles, but let's start from the beginning. I know you're from South Bend, Indiana. Tell me a little bit about that.
It was wonderful. We lived in a wonderful community of African American everything.
Okay.
And from Cedar to Soren to Bissell, Minor, and I knew and know everybody who lived in every house. And it was a Black enclave, and it was absolutely family. And in between all that was Coquillard Park, and we had a tennis court, we had a baseball diamond,
All the things.
and we had all of the slides and all of that.
Wow.
And so I'm saying that's probably the late 50s. I was born in 1952.
Wow.
And so for us to be in that community was powerful.
Yeah. So you were bossy even then.
Well, you know, I was taught to be. My father, I call him Cool Carl.
Cool Carl.
Cool Carl.
I like him already.
Cool Carl. Carl was cool. But Carl taught me how to function in an environment where we were in predominantly white communities. We were nestled in a community that was right outside of Notre Dame University.
Wow.
And the power of all of that was Dr. Bell, Dr. Butts, Dr. Shambly.
Okay.
Goldie Ivory was the first graduate from Notre Dame, which
you've
was
had
right down the street.
many
I could tell
influences.
you every name of every person on the east side in every house. But it was community.
Okay.
And it was great to be Black. My first day at middle school, junior high school, was Thomas Jefferson. And when we went back to the playground with my group of people that we all, I don't know, they must have sat down and decided everybody was going to have the babies at the same time, because we were all in the same grades.
Wait a minute. How did you get from Indiana to Baltimore?
Oh, well, I left there and went to New Orleans and went to Dillard University for
Okay.
about 5 minutes. And I didn't really like it
For
because...
about 5 minutes.
Yeah, because I had already experienced, going to John Adams High School and all the stuff that I learned there. And when I got down to Dillard, it was stuff that I had done in junior high school.
Okay.
And I
So
left.
you were done with it.
I left
Okay.
New Orleans. I went
have
to
a-
literally for 2 seconds.
I have a question. A little birdie told me a very interesting fact about you.
Ooh.
It's a fun fact.
Yeah.
So I heard that there was a 10-bedroom house.
Yes.
And then there was a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
So it meant that I was married to a person that wasn't who he said he was.
Oh no.
And we lived on Somerville out in Baltimore County, and we had 10 bathrooms. And that was okay,
Very
except
lavish lifestyle.
it was something that we didn't think that we would ever be in, and here I am.
Okay.
But sometimes those relationships aren't what we thought they were going to be.
Do tell.
And I decided that I would rather live in a 1-bedroom house or bathroom, 1-bedroom bathroom,
Okay.
than 10. And
Well, how did he feel about that?
I didn't care. I
Well,
was going through a
sounds
divorce
very
at that
bossy
point.
of you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm still living my life. I'm still doing the things. And I moved to New
amazing.
York and lived in Harlem
That's very
and
inspiring.
opened up an art gallery, Zaj.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So Harlem, Zaj, and then I know you
New
have so many
Orleans, then I
titles.
left to
New Orleans,
California,
California.
and lived there at 222 Gulf Street in Manhattan Beach.
So what are you doing now?
What am I doing? I am working with myself.
Okay.
We, WKIM, we keep it moving.
Yes.
And we do
You certainly do
online
keep it
work.
moving.
We do. That's my life.
Yes.
That's why we go keep it moving. Because I went
Absolutely.
through several other husbands too. So
You know what?
But I think here's what I really believe. I think you're supposed to live your life.
You sure are.
You are supposed to live your life, and nobody
Yes.
else can tell you how you're supposed to live your life. And a lot of people try to tell you
Yep.
what to do.
They sure do.
And the reality is that I'm not going to do that. I used to set up here's a perfect example of Marsha. I got a job, it's so funny, with some retired Marines.
You boss lady with a job?
Yeah, I got a job.
Okay.
And it was the Modern Day Marine Force and Readiness Military Exposition.
Okay.
And I just met these people sitting at the bar at Hogate's, and they said, we want you to come and work with us. I was living in Bethesda at that time.
Oh, so you've always had this aura. People just
I'm
attract
just
to you.
because I got most talkative in high school.
Oh, well,
so
that
I just
sounds
talk.
about right.
That's right. And so it was so interesting. I get this job that is really incredible. So I get the job, and we've got all these retired Marines. And there was a brigadier general, 1-star, and he had just retired. And every day I'd come in from Bethesda, and he's got this I got this big chair, and he had taped all these little pieces of paper of things that he wanted me to do. So before I could even sit down, I had to take all the little pieces of paper off of my chair. And I did that.
Wow.
And then one day I just stopped. I was like, you know what, this is not
not
gonna
for you.
work.
Yeah,
This is
so-
not gonna work.
yep, okay.
So I took
So the
all those
boss
little,
kicked in, and you were like,
took
no.
off all those little pieces of paper, and I walked around the other side. This was in Crystal City, and Jerry Hagan, General Jerry Hagan, and all his little people, Carl and all them, and they said, oh, wait a minute, bring her in. Marsha wants to say something, because I don't know, because I know my face.
Wait a minute, hold up. Before you say that, I need this moment for me and the ladies. I need you to sum that up real quick and teach us. Look in the camera, teach us, how do you say what you're about to say, what you have said, but how do we say it to the person that it needs to be said to?
So I walked into Jerry Hagan's office, and I had all those little pieces of paper that he had taped to my chair. I ripped them all up, walked on the other side, and I threw it at him. And I said, if you ever tape another thing against my chair, I'm a whoop.
And this is Saidah Spinner with the Doni Glover Show with the Boss Ladies of Baltimore. And we were here again today with Miss Marsha Jews, boss lady herself. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was good talking to you.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
At Fulton Bank, we're personally invested in every community we serve. So sometimes we're big in small ways, like finding a way to get Crystal and Dan a mortgage before the baby arrived. Other times we're small in big ways, like local decision-making and financial coaching that helped Fernando open his own shop. Fulton Bank, a community bank that's big and small in all the right ways.
Donnie Glover Show, BMoreNews. BMoreNews.
To all of our guests, we'll see you next time. Do pick up a copy of Unapologetically Black, Journalpreneur, and I Am Black Wall Street. And do check out BMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.
Donnie Glover Show, BMoreNews.